Hi, I'm Sergio, and in this tutorial I will show you how to use ZbxWizz to quickly and accurately batch onboard new hosts into Zabbix, starting from a simple CSV file. Whether you're managing a growing infrastructure or just looking to streamline your workflow, this method will save you time and effort. So let's get started. In this scenario, I will onboard a list of new hosts into Zabbix. Each host will be configured with the following: two host groups, one for the location, the other one for the device type, one ICMP template, which will be applied to all hosts, and depending if the host has one of the known OS types, it will be configured with the appropriate monitoring template. Also, I will configure two tags. In one tag, I will configure the SLA, and in the second, I will configure the team, which should take care of this device. In order to keep the demo simple, I have already created the host groups and the templates in Zabbix. Okay, so let's move on. So what are the steps that I will perform? So in the first step, I will import the CSV file. In the second one, using the pull function, I will extract the group IDs from Zabbix. In step 3, I will extract the template IDs from Zabbix. Then I will create the request for the push. And in the end, I'll just hit the execute button, push the data, and enjoy the result. Okay, so let's get started. In the first step for a new installation would be to actually configure the connection to Zabbix API. Let's take a look at this. You notice here it has a navigation toolbar, and then it has something like a status bar on the bottom. On the right top corner, we configured the Zabbix connection. As you can see, this one is already configured with the details of my environment. Now what you notice here is this API query mode. What does it mean? So we're going to execute actually a lot of requests when we will create a host, for example. For each row in the table, a request to the Zabbix API will be performed, right? And the way to do this, we have basically three options. One is sequential. So this means one request will be executed, then the next one, and the next one, and so on. Now, of course, this is slow, but what I've noticed from my previous experience in working with Zabbix, especially when doing write operations, so like creating, deleting, updating, it's the safest, because otherwise, if I would go for this second option, the parallel, then in this case it might lead to database corruption. Okay, and in the parallels, as the name says, basically all the requests are executed in parallel, which leads to a much faster execution time, but again could lead to problems. Of course, when pulling data, I would definitely recommend to use this query mode, because it's definitely faster. You don't write anything, so we don't have problems like data corruption. And the third option is hybrid. In this query mode, basically the requests are grouped into batches, and a batch of requests is executed in parallel. Once it's finished, then it moves to the next one and next one and so on. So it's something in between. Okay, so I will not say that I have a preferred one. Basically, you will see the way I'm going to use it now. For fetching data from Zabbix, I will use the parallel, and for pushing data to Zabbix, I will use the sequential one. Now, in this step, we're going to import the host into editor. As previously mentioned, the hosts are currently saved in the CSV file. So I'll go ahead and just import this one. Right, where I have it. This is it. Now, as you can see, this is there is this select, where normally if there will be multiple sheets already defined in the workspace, you could select which sheet should be used to load the data into, but currently we have none defined. We have a new empty workspace, so I will just click the load, and there I have it. So now you see the content of the CSV file being rendered into the spreadsheet editor. As mentioned before, we have a host name, we have an IP, location, device type, operating system, SLA, and owner team. Okay, now it's time to pull the data from Zabbix. Now, as mentioned before, location and device types are actually host groups. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Zabbix Ops, select the pool from the menu, and I will use a pre-saved template. A few words about this one, about this dialog. So what we have here, we have the resource which we want to fetch. So this is going to be about host groups. Now the data label is used to save the data on the road level. So when I'm going to access the data which is being returned by this request, I'm going to use this label to access it. You will see later on how this is being used. Now about the request, this is the request editor. What we're actually here writing is not the full Zabbix API request, but just the parameters part. The rest, the method and so on, other parameters which are other things which are there in the API request, is the job of the Zabbix API client to configure it. Okay, you'll notice also this small question mark button. If I click on it, it's just going to take me directly to the Zabbix help page, so I can document myself about how to create the request. Okay, now in this case the request is quite straightforward, so we're going to filter by name and we're going to use the location. Now what you see, as previously mentioned, these are templates. So in these templates we can put JavaScript code. Now the JavaScript code always must be enclosed by $, curly brackets open, curly brackets closed, and here I will put the JavaScript code. Now this the variables which we can use, so we can use normal JavaScript stuff, but there are also some special variables. So I can access, for example, the columns by ID, so $0 would be the first column. Now what you see here is no row selected. Very important to know is that this request is executed only against the selected rows. So we have at this moment no selected rows. I'll just go ahead and select all of them, and I'll type here something just to force the editor to reevaluate the template. Now you see here we see a preview of the template being evaluated with the data of the first selected row. So we have here device 001. Okay, but this is not what we're searching for. We're searching for a group ID, for a group name which is called the group name is basically the location field, right? So let's execute it. Now, as you see, I made the mistake not to turn on the parallel mode, so it's going to take a little bit, but not too much. Okay, now that the data has been pulled, there is a quick way to see what has been received from Zabbix. So I just click on the row index button, I choose row info, and then we navigate in this JSON, and here you can see. As mentioned before, you see here the data label, and here is the data label. ZbX, we have the group ID, the name, and so on. So now let's extract this data into the table. For this, I will use the transformation. I'll just go on the column where I want to perform the transformation. I don't need this one anymore. And yeah, nice. It was before there. And here in the expression, basically this is again JavaScript. So the way to access that data is data.zbx.groupid. And voila, there I have it. Now we extracted the group ID in column 7. Let's also rename the column so we know what we have there. That will be the location, loc group ID. Okay. And now let's extract the device type group. Again, I go for the pool, but before doing the pool, I will also change to parallel. save config. Okay, and again, host group, and not the location, but rather the device type. Device type. This will not gonna work. Why is not gonna work? Because there's a space here. So let's rename this one, or let's do it the other way around. I'm just gonna use this time to demonstrate the way to access a cell by the index. So this is number 3, column index 3. What's important to know is that in my Zabbix installation, I have defined device type host groups like this. So let me go to host groups, and you see you have device type and then slash and the actual device type. So I will put this text here, device type, and you can see it here nicely rendered. I will use the same data label because the other one I already used the data. I'm not interested to keep it anymore. And I'm going to execute. You see now it's going definitely faster in the parallel mode. Again, let's extract the data, that the group ID in column 8. Yeah, the data is already there. I don't need to modify anything. By the way, as you can see here, I can select the column at any time. So normally when you click on the transformation, it will be selected for the column which you clicked, but you can change this at any time. Actually, this is the way I'm working. When I have multiple columns to modify, I just open the transformation window once, and then I keep selecting the columns which I want to modify and do my stuff. So now we're gonna update column 8, apply, and voila, there we have it. Let's take a look also at the row info to see that we have here what we want. Device type storage, is it matching? Yes, it is matching. Good. Now we have the group IDs. Let's rename also this column, is dev type group ID. Good. Now it's time to extract the templates. Now, as you can see, some of the devices don't have an OS, right? I use ChatGPT to generate this list, so it's not a real list of equipments, of course. So now let's extract the templates. Now the templates are actually the templates for the operating system. This is what we have, it's macOS, right? Now, again, I'll do a pull. This time I'm gonna, by the way, I can also use a pre-saved template, right? And as you can see here, I already did this before on the rehearsal of this tutorial, and I have it here. We're searching for host, and it's being interpolated, the OS, and then we add this string, which is identifying the template name. Now, as you can see here, we have a lot of entries where the OS is not available, and we should filter these ones out because we actually don't need it. We don't need them. So I will use the filtering. Does not contain and A. Put a space here. Okay. So now I have in the active view visible only the entries which have this field populated with the valid OS. Okay. Now I will select all and execute. So let's go ahead and execute this request. Okay. Now we should have the template IDs. Yeah, we do. Host template ID. This is the one that I need. Okay. Again, we use the transformation function. Zabbix template ID. And there I have it. Okay. So now what's missing? It's missing the ID for the ICMP template. I'll go back in Zabbix, and I will search for ICMP. I need the IT of this one. Now the problem with Zabbix with the 740 is that you cannot see this very easily. So I just click on the host, and now I can copy it from the URL. Okay? So this is the idea of this template. So now it's time to create the request. Before doing that, if you remember, I said there will be 1 or 2 templates associated with each host. Those hosts which have a valid OS should have 2 templates, one for the ICMP monitoring, and the other one and the one for the OS monitoring. Now, if I will go now and create the request, I go to Zabbix Ops, push. I actually already have the request here created. So let's take a look at this request. So we have the host. We're using the host name field to populate this one. Let's select everything. Okay, there are some problems in this template. We can see here it's throwing some errors, but we'll address them one by one. IP is valid, _IP. Then we have dev type group ID. Dev type group ID, yes, we have it there, but then this one is not matching. So it's location group ID here, but actually I give it the name lock group ID. Now what's missing is this thing, templates. Now let's take this one out for the moment. Then we have the owner. Okay, let me rename this field. We have the owner and we have the SLA. Okay, so now the validator is showing us that the request is valid, and we can execute it. But we're still missing the templates. Now, what we have here, we have a situation where it's a variation, right? So in some cases we have only 1 template, and in some other cases we have 2 templates. So now I should add the templates. But as mentioned before, our problem with the templates is that sometimes some of the hosts have 2 templates, some have only 1. So we have a variable number of templates. Okay, how to address this? We definitely cannot put here a static configuration, right? So the way I do it is that I'm creating, I will create that data, I will create it here in one of the fields. So the way I do this, we have the operating system template ID in column 9. Now I will say if column 9 is not null, then I will create an array with 1 element, which is column 9, the cell at index 9, and I will concat to this array our the template for the ICMP template, the ID for the ICMP template. But of course this is not enough, and I will create the full template object, which we will later on insert into the full request object for the templates, which will later on insert it in the request template. So I will do a map say ID, and we are returning template ID. Let's apply the transformation, and now you see we have it very nicely rendered here, 300. Okay, you see here we have a single element in the array, here we have 2. So let's get back to our request, push templates, and I'm just going to reference directly the column 10, and you can see it here nicely rendered. Now we are basically almost ready. Before proceeding to execute this request, remember, as I told you, let's switch to sequential, not to break something. Save config. By the way, let's check the Zabbix. As you can see, there is nothing in here. And now let's hit execute and hope for the best. No resource selected. Yes, my fault. I forgot to select which is the resource which I want to create. So we want to a host, and we want to create it. Good. Now, it's very important to be careful always when you write stuff into Zabbix, because you can break things. So the role of this dialog is to remind you that you should always double check, triple check. So definitely I had my share of failures using ZbxWizz. I mean, like pushing the wrong data, but I always make sure that I have backups. Now again, this tool is doing what you tell it to do. So it's your own responsibility. You have to be very careful. You have to think twice what you're going to push in Zabbix. So the tool is just a tool, nothing more. It's like a knife. You can use it to cut the bread, or you can use it to stuck it in somebody's back. Good, let's execute. Okay, so there we have it. It's been executed. Let's see how the things are going on in Zabbix. So all of them have been implemented. Let's click on one of them. Let's see how is it doing. You see the host groups are there, device type firewall, Toronto, the tags have been assigned. How about the template? So this one, a simple one, no OS, only the ICMP template. Now this one looks a little bit, looks like it has OS on it. There you have it. Now, as an added bonus to this demo, I will show you how to delete hosts. So in order to delete the hosts, we need the host IDs. Now what's nice that when we created this host, the Zabbix is responding with the host ID which has been created. Now we can find this one if we navigate here down, and you see it's here in the last response. We have the host ID, and this one can be also extracted in one of the columns. So I'll use the transformation function. I'll access the last response, result, host IDs 0, column 11. There you have it. And now let's create another push request. Again, we're talking about a host. We want to delete this time, and we're gonna delete host identified by values from column 11. Again, this is not a bulk request. I mean, like in Zabbix it's possible to specify here multiple host IDs that you want to delete at once. No, for each of the rows this request is going to be executed, so each host is going to be deleted individually. Again, I keep the query mode sequential, not to break anything. So I'll execute it now. Again, the warning, don't forget, double, triple, four triple check. Okay, so there it is. Let's see, do we find here anything left? Nothing. So just the initial host which was configured in Zabbix. We onboarded 500 hosts in a pretty complex scenario, and I did this pretty quickly. So because I had to explain everything, it took like I'm watching I see my watch here, it shows me like about half an hour, but normally this should not take more than 5 minutes from start to end. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you will find ZbxWizz a useful tool for your daily activities. Please let me know what you think. And of course, as usual, as a usual YouTuber, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Bye bye.